Surprise, motherfucker.
Yes, guys, welcome to the most must-see show in Car City World, nay, East Podcast Nation. This is your Fleur Hour on Wednesday evening, brought to you by, sponsored by, AJM. You see the banner going across the bottom throughout the show, so make sure you guys and girls, etc., hook them up for all your embroidery needs. So, a couple of specials today. So, not only am I not joined by my co-host with the least hair, Mr. Matthew Angel, I'm here with Rob Ball from Timo, Reese David Evans. Thank you so much for coming on, mate, and arranging this. But we are joined by none other than Fleets himself. How are we doing, mate? Oh, he's frozen straight away.
How are you,
frozen. While he's trying to sort that out, what's going on here? How are you doing, Reese, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Have you seen the new third kit? It's not that nice. It's like Coventry's kit. It does a bit. The sky blue again.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I was hoping for a black and yellow shirt, but no, it's not that nice. I'm not a fan of it.
They ain't going to bring her back, I don't think, mate. Oh, there he is. He's coming froze. He's been pulled out. He's got an AWOL over it now. Still, can you hear us? No. While we wait for all that to get sorted out, what we'll do is we'll talk about obviously what's coming up. Obviously, busy week for the channel and obviously East Podcast Nation. We have obviously wonderful guest here this evening, and of course, this is Craig Bellamy week. So on Friday, we do have the live event with Craig Bellamy, which we're awfully excited about, which we'll talk about a bit later on. I'm hoping now we do have Fleetwood back with us. You there?
Yeah, it should be okay. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, it's fine, mate. It's absolutely fine. I thought I dropped the fleets, called you the fleets, and then literally scared you off straight away. So
not a problem, mate. So not a problem. So give me obviously spoke about it a little bit before we started. It was quite a tame show. Love for our audience and stuff to get to know our guests a little bit more, maybe more so than they already do. Talk about you, what brought you to Cardiff, or what you're up to now, and things like that. And I have a few questions in my locker I've been sitting on since Reese managed to sort this out, and of course then we'll have some questions then from our wonderful viewing audience, and if that's okay with you, mate. Absolutely perfect, no problem.
Awesome. So we will go, if you're okay, then we'll go way back when. How did it all start? Obviously, your first professional club, as far as I'm aware, was Cardiff City. How did that come about?
I was playing sort of grassroots football like most young children. I think it was about 13 or 14. And I got scouted playing for my local team in Gloucester. It was one of those leagues where I used to end up scoring 90 goals a season, something ridiculous like that. And
I played rugby to quite a high standard as well in high school. And then, I got offered down for a trial. I think I scored about 8 or 9 in the trial down in Indian Park for the age group. I think it was the under 13s back then. And literally got offered straight away. Got invited to come down. So it went straight from there. I think Gavin Tate was the head scout back then. And went sort of straight into the under 13s for a couple of games. Did pretty well. I was quite quick back then when I was younger, and managed to score a few goals and stayed all the way through the age groups then up until sort of scholarship year.
That's awesome. So it's surprising me a little bit though that I know Gloucester's obviously not a million miles away from Wales, of course, but the fact that they do venture out at that to see yourself at that young age, was it a case of have they seen you before, or was it literally a case of love at first sight? They seen you and thought we got to get this kid down playing at Cardiff.
Yeah, I think it was probably that. Listen, obviously you're in the days before social media, so if it was up to them, I might have been somewhere, in the Premier League. You never know. But I think maybe some rumours spread or something like that. Like I said, it was I'm scoring nearly triple figures every season in grassroots football, and I think with most kids, I think it's a bit of luck as well. Probably not so much now because they've got so many outlets to put videos on or highlights and clips and stuff, whereas we didn't have that. So I think it was a bit of luck that they came down and saw me straight away and invited me down. And listen, it was I didn't really understand the sort of enormity of it. I didn't really know then that you could be a footballer as a job. I just loved playing, followed football, but I didn't really know that I was capable of having it as a career at that time, which is probably quite good because I probably had a little bit of innocence about me as well.
Was there anyone else in the academy with you? Was you out?
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't an academy back then. It was a centre of excellence. So I think the sort of sides we used to play against were Swansea, Swindon, Oxford, Bristol Rovers. We used to tend to play the same teams over and over and over again before we were an academy. So when I got there, Byron Anthony was there, Danny Thomas. I'm thinking of players who've obviously made first team appearances. And then obviously the years sort of after me, we had Joe Ledley, Joe Jacobson, Cameron Jerome was my year. So there's quite a good core of players that managed to go on and play for the first team from that youth setup.
So what got you into football in the first place then? Was the love always there, or did you, family wise, was you brought into it, or?
My dad used to play football at sort of lower league standard. My brothers both ended up playing sort of professional rugby as well. So we're a sporty family. My mum played netball for 20, 30 years. So it was always like sport involved.
Devils then, you?
Yeah. So we always used to. Listen, I was always involved in sport, and I think when I went to high school, and you have that sort of that change of there's so much more sports to take part in. I started playing football. I was probably better than I actually thought I was, and then played rugby as well. Used to play basically anything to get me out of lessons. Well, was my plan. So it just happened to be that I was good at something without really having any sort of training or anything like that. It was just I played for a grassroots team, and I think I probably just had natural ability at that age.
Was the rugby career ever a thing that you thought that you wanted to explore that and go down that route and try and make that a full-time job instead? Was it ever a point where you thought, nah, I'm not the football on the head and go down the rugby route instead?
Yeah, it was a choice I had to make at sort of 15 when I left school. Obviously, Cardiff had offered me a scholarship or an apprenticeship. But I had a few offers to go and sort of trial for rugby as well. I grew up in Gloucester, which is a massive rugby city. So it's all very rugby based around here. The football doesn't really get a look in. So I had a bit of a choice to make. If I'm honest, I was better at football than I was at rugby, and I think my nose and my chin and my jaw are all thanking me for that decision, because my brothers have had rhinoplasty and their bodies are just absolute turmoil. So I probably chose the right route, but there was a point where I had to make a decision on it. But I think I probably made the right one in the end.
So did you have to move to Cardiff at 15 years old, or did you travel before?
I had to. So obviously, when I was in the youth sort of setup, my mum used to drive me down midweek for training, Tuesday, Thursdays, and then games. I used to go on a Sunday. So I'd actually play on a Sunday morning for Cardiff, and then I'd get changed in the car on the way home and go and play for my grassroots team straight after. But then, obviously, when I signed the sort of apprenticeship forms, I moved down. I was in Diggs, so I was with a lovely family living in Whitchurch, and then obviously you're in a house with 2 or 3 other lads. I actually live with Cameron Jerome. So I'm sure we'll get into a few funny stories about that. But it was excellent. You move away from home. I literally just left school and moved straight down. Didn't even pick up my GCSE results. My mum picked them up for me, and I was gone. I couldn't really wait. Yeah, you think I'd be homesick or anything like that, but I loved it. My family are all sort of based in and around Newport and Cardiff. My brothers and my sisters. So it was quite an easy transition, and the family I stayed with were lovely. So it was an easy transition. I just loved it. So.
So obviously you made a few senior appearances for Cardiff. So how did that come about then? So was you knocking on the door for the under 23s or 21s at the time, and is that were they watching you for a while before you got your appearances, or?
I think they probably had quite a sort of high hopes when I sort of signed apprenticeship forms. I said youth teams. I was doing what I did at grassroots. I was scoring 2-3 a game. We had a very, very strong side at that level. We were beating everyone. And then I remember in my first year, I think I got. So obviously, usually your apprenticeship is 3 years, and then if you can get given a pro in that time, then great. I think in my first year, I ended up making an appearance in the Welsh Cup away at TNS, and I scored in that. And I think then there was a little bit more hype around it. We didn't have an under 23s back then; it was the old school reserves. So it was, listen, it's probably the worst thing that's ever been scrapped, in my opinion. It was brilliant. I was playing with first team players.
Loads of
it was brilliant. On Ninian Park's pitch, you're playing against other pros as well. Our reserve team, we had, Bowen, Gavin Gordon, Andy Campbell would play if he was injured, and you'd have players coming out the first team and, playing in the reserve side. And it was amazing for a 16-year-old lad to play with those players. So, it was a great sort of character building, massively. Probably things that we wouldn't get away with now as coaches and players. But it was an excellent sort of grounding for us. And then obviously off the back of that, I then ended up getting offered a professional deal by Lenny Lawrence. And then I was pretty much involved then until from sort of 17 onwards.
So what was the standard like of the academy back then? Or when you look at them now, was the standards pretty high now? What was like back there with training and the coaching stuff?
Yeah, it was. So Colin Pascoe was my sort of head coach. It's funny when I try and explain it to my son now, because my son plays for Forest Green. He's only 10. He's playing now, and I'm doing everything that my mum had to do for me. But it was. We were basically you're cleaners first, and then you play football on the side. That is your apprenticeship. You're cleaning boots, toilets, bins, a lot. You know, we're painting Ninian Park in the summer for when all the fans come back. You know, we used to have to be ball boys when Andy Legg played because we used to have to wipe the ball with the towel and stuff. So it was so grounding, and it's completely different to what an academy is now. You know, you don't get your boots done for you. You have to take your own kit home and wash it. And it's very, very different, but I think it installs a lot of characteristics that I hold really valuable to me now. And even when I'm dealing with youth players now, I sort of tend to look at if they've got those characteristics that I had or what I was sort of taught back then. You know, we had to wait until the first team had finished their dinner before we could eat ours. You know, we used to knock on the first team dressing room before we went in because it was just respectful. And we were really close to the first team. I'm not sure if academies do that now because they've got so many players and so many sides. But we were integrated with the first team all the time. We'd see them every day. You know, it was great because we all trained at the same place. And listen, I understand, you know, the Cardiff Academy's gone from strength to strength, and the amount of numbers they get into the first team is excellent. But yeah, back then it was a lot different. But we were a strong youth setup. We basically had all the best players in the area. You either went to us, and if you weren't good enough for us, you went to Swansea, and that was the way it was back then. And you know, and when we went in the Wales setups, it was literally just full of Cardiff and Swansea players. That was it.
Quality. So, one thing I'd love to ask is, you obviously you talked about it when you were a young man, how humble he was, in fairness, and that maybe didn't put yourself on as a higher level that you probably should have put yourself. I'm curious because there was a hell of a lot of love around you at the time. I remember being a young boy thinking, "Shit, this kid's gonna literally set the world on fire at Cardiff," and things like that. And then to find out, then, you know, after only 8 appearances, I think, well, less than 10 appearances, first team appearances, so I beg your pardon, that was it. What happened? How did I even come about for you to not click on from there with Cardiff?
Yeah, it was probably a combination of a few things, and I've said it in previous interviews. I was humble before I started, probably not so much when I got into my 17, 18s, 19s. I had a bit of arrogance about me. I knew I was good, and I wasn't so sort of arrogant on the pitch or anything like that, but I probably didn't understand the enormity of it all, or what I could have gone on to achieve. I was just thinking, well, I'm 17, I'm coming on for Rob Earnshaw in the Carling Cup at 17 against Watford. I think that was my first ever first team appearance, and that's it. Now I've made it. Now that's fine. You know, that's it. And listen, sometimes it doesn't work out, and I haven't got any regrets about it, but I made my debut. So my starting debut was at 18, and that was against Derby in the Championship. So I started up front with Peter Thorne, who I was actually his boot boy at the time as well. So I had to clean his boots and then play with him. So so I remember Lenny Lawrence telling me on a Friday, just saying, "You ready to play tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, sound," because I've been on the bench here and there and stuff, and come on. And he was like, "No, you're going to start tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay, fair enough." It didn't really, it didn't really faze me. I think we were going for a bit of a bad run at the time, and I actually got injured and had to come off at half time, and I got man of the match, funnily enough, as well. So again, I speak about that luck of being scouted to get there. You know, I felt like I played really well in the first half. Like I said, I got man of the match. I think we ended up losing the game 2-0. I actually tore ligaments in my ankle from a tackle. I think it was Tom Huddleston, actually. That's why I always remember him. And he smashed me in the tackle. And and then I was out for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And in that time, Cameron Jerome took my place, and the rest is sort of history. So it was one of them where I feel like if that hadn't happened, then maybe I could have gone on to have sort of his career, maybe, if that makes sense. But also, I don't regret of how it happened. That's football. You know, the football world is littered full of stories of people who've not had the luck or anything like that. But I do think that if, like I said, again, I think if everybody had their time, they'd do it differently. And I 100% would. I did get a little bit excited by the bright lights of living in a big city as an 18-year-old and having a little bit of hype around me. Used to sort of join up with the first team players and go for a few drinks here and there, but these lads could do it and I wasn't used to that sort of thing. So I'm trying to make my way in the game, and I'm, having a few drinks with established pros who are used to it. But yeah, again, if I'd had my time, I'd do things a lot differently, but I guess you can say that about anything in life, can't you? So
yeah, absolutely, mate. No, I appreciate that. And not that I want you to obviously point by express imagination, but do you think that at the time, I'd like to think there's more support around now, but do you think that there weren't much of a support system around the professional club to look after it? As a young man breaking onto the scene, was there not much support around to help you accommodate and get into that, do you think?
It's a strange one, really, because listen, I signed my first professional contract and I was on 500 quid a week. Listen, it's not life-changing money, but I went from like 75 quid a week as an apprentice to that. So, I wasn't paying for digs. I didn't have any bills or outgoings or anything, and it's a tough one, really, because it was back in the day that there wasn't that sort of thing. If you asked for help, you were sort of considered weak, or that's just how it was back then. Not that I needed like help or anything, or I didn't think so. But nobody thinks there's a problem until something bad happens. And I think now players get so much. There's the PFA are great. Players have got support networks all over the place. Mental health is being raised as a massive issue, which is great, because I saw, some things at Cardiff with players. I'm sure Jeff Whitley won't mind me mentioning him, because he came out afterwards and told us all about his troubles that he had. And listen, Jeff was one of the players who I was in and around with, in the first team and stuff. And you could see it back then, but there's no real support network for anyone to come out and say, unless they're really struggling, no one's going to be trying to look out for it. So it was good, because I think we played in an era where we could probably do a lot more than players can now. We're a championship club. We could go out 3 times a week and people wouldn't care. Like, it's that sort of thing. And it's not that you're demeaning the club or the badge or anything like that. It's just that no one had a camera phone in your face, for example, or no one was ringing up the club and saying so and so was down here last night having a wine and a steak or whatever. So it's you were a little bit more free. And I do feel a little bit sorry for players now with what they go through, but also it's a lot more professionally run now with, like I said, with support networks and stuff like that.
That's quality.
When you come to centre of excellence, was there any players that didn't go on the career you thought they would have? And was there anyone who had a career you thought wouldn't have had?
Yeah, good question. I think the one before me, and I think he was a few years before me, was Leon Jean. Or I think everybody mentions that name. When it comes down to Cardiff, some of the stories we heard were, listen, he should have been a Ballon d'Or winner by the sounds of it. But then it's a tough one, really. I think when Joe Ledley came into the dressing room as an apprentice, you got this really quiet sort of. He's got a bald haircut with the curtains, and he was the quietest lad you've ever met in your life, and good left foot, but you never thought he'd go on to do what he did. He was outstanding, but again, work ethic. Got his debut nice and early, and just went for him. And listen, what an absolute career he's had. Joe Jacobson's ended up having 10 years at Wycombe Wanderers playing league football. And Cameron Jerome obviously went on to that as well. You can probably put Cameron into that bracket as well, because I'm sure Cam won't mind saying it, that when he came in, we all sort of looked around and were like, not sure about this guy. Like, do you know what I mean? From Huddersfield, we're all Welsh lads. You got this lad coming in who no one can understand a word he says. We ended up rooming together in digs, and we're good pals. He had a fantastic career, and listen, he was just one of those players who he was so confident. with anything, it doesn't matter what environment he was in. He was telling you he was the best player there. And listen, he believed it, and sometimes that goes a long way in your favour.
You still good mates with Jerome then, I take it.
I speak to him now and again. Obviously, life moves on, and I try and keep in touch with some of the lads that I've played with, you sort of text each other now and again. But obviously, people move on, and you have raised families and stuff like that, and your time seems to dwindle away. But you always have those connections. 4 of my best friends are all sort of apprenticeship lads who probably didn't make first team appearances or get the recognition they deserve. But we're still the closest of friends. I actually went down and played a little 5-a-side tournament for one of them the other day. I think somebody spotted us. There's a few ringers, but we were moving a little bit slower now than we used to. But we're still those were the best days. Those apprenticeship days of 6-7 hours in a changing room with your mates, and you get to play football as well. So it was class.
I want to ask, what was Ninian Park like to play in?
Yeah, it was great. It was obviously I was a ball boy first. That was my sort of first. Obviously, coming from Gloucester, I'd never been to Ninian Park for any game, whatever. So my first sort of, the other lads that had signed apprenticeship forms are all from Cardiff, so they'd been to games. I'd never been there. And then I'd just get given a towel and a stool and just say, every time Andy Legg comes over, make sure you wipe that ball or he's going to scream in your face. But yeah, listen, it was electric. It was when it was going well. And I think my first year was the promotion year. So when we beat QPR in the final, so we all obviously got to go to that one. And then that championship year, the next year was it was brilliant. That was the one where Rob Earnshaw's just on fire. I think he banged in like 30 goals that year. You got Graham Kavanagh, James Collins, Gabadon. The side was incredible. Some of the best players I've played with in that side. It was one of those grounds. It reminds me a lot of when I played at Luton. You love playing there if you play for them, but you hate going there as an opposing player. And I think Ninian Park had that environment as well.
That's quality. So sticking with when you were playing around Cardiff, those days, obviously you made a few appearances for the under 21s, the Wales under 21s as well. So cracking achievement. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, I went all the way through the age group. So I got a call up into the Victory Shield, so the under 16, so the schoolboy stuff. So we obviously played in that one. And then obviously I started my scholarship with Cardiff. So that was quite a good little insight of sort of what I could do and stuff. And then I played all the way through. So 17s, 19s, under 20s, and then 21s. It was sort of back in the day where the first team were winning a few big games. They beat Germany, they beat Italy at the Millennium, Bellamy scoring that goal. They were never doing anything tournament-wise, obviously, or qualifying, but it was always be a few big games. The 21s was the opposite. We hadn't won in about 8 years, I think. I think we were the first side to actually win a game in about 7 years. We beat Azerbaijan away 1-0. Thriller. And I think we were the first side to win a game in however many years. And that sort of under 21 side, we had Gareth Bale was just coming through. I was lucky enough to play sort of 2 games with him, although he didn't get into my best 11 because he wasn't that good back then. So it was like it's a bit of a weird one. That you say you played with Bale, but he doesn't get in your top 11. So, but no, we had Wayne Hennessy was the goalkeeper, Craig Davis, who went on to have a good league career. Like I said, Gareth Bale, Ramsey was just a little bit after me, but Joe Ledley in that squad, David Cottrell. So there was a good group of players, for that level, but it was considered a bit more of a jolly up back then because no one really expected you to do anything. So you used to love going away with Wales because as a young lad, like I said, on 85 quid a week or 75 quid a week, you get your expenses paid, you get free food, you get free kit, and it's but it was a good
money there.
Yeah, it was perfect. So, but no, it wasn't that serious. If I'm honest, the 21s, the first team was. The 21s, not so much, because I don't think anybody ever expected anything of us. But I managed to play in some wicked games, played against England, and And we played some class games in that as well.
That's quality.
Good for a night out.
What's that?
Was Azerbaijan good for a night out?
we didn't dare go. We didn't dare go out. It was we literally, I think we flew over there. It was desert and then one hotel, and we were in and out pretty quick. And obviously, because we had the same fixtures as the first team, so we used to travel obviously with your first team. You know, your Bellamy, Savage, Gary Speed, all those. So we'd obviously played the night before, then they'd play, and then we'd get home.
Right.
I think we managed a few night outs in like Poland and Latvia and stuff like that. So the others, we managed to, we obviously weren't allowed one, but we used to sneak out afterwards, a few of us, and it was there's always a few good stories off those trips as well. Yeah,
that's quality. So fast forward a little bit. So obviously you now are a manager. Was that something that you always wanted to do, do you think? Was that something, so obviously you played for a few clubs during your career. Do you think that, you know, throughout having all those different managers and things like that, do you think, you know, I want to have a crack at that, or was it just something that was thrown to you, or?
It's a weird one. You never really think about it until you sort of come to the later part of your career. So I think I was about 30. I'd literally just finished Eastleigh. So I'd come out of professional football from Luton, gone to Eastleigh sort of 3 mornings a week. Still on decent enough money that I didn't have to get a proper job yet or enter the real world. So I thought, oh, why not? I'll do my coaching badges, I'll do my B license, and I'll do my personal training license and my certificates as well. So I've got something to do, you know, in case the money ever dries up or you need to, you know, like I say, get a real job. So I just coincided it, but I never really thought about taking coaching or anything like that. My first coaching job after my B license was I was an academy coach at Cheltenham Town for the under-13s, and I started to get the bug a little bit then of just looking at the game in a different way. I think then obviously when I went into non-league and started playing in that, I was made captain for a few teams, and I think that makes you think about the game differently as well, as a sort of leadership role, or what you can bring to the side other than your playing ability. Obviously, when I played and I was younger, I was very selfish, a typical striker. Just want to score goals. Even if you win and you don't score, I used to be in a bad mood. You know, it was one of those. So, yeah, I think it probably just opened my mind. Yeah, exactly. So, it had to open my mind a little bit about different parts of the game and stuff. And then, yeah, people think that I said I'm 38 now, but I've been coaching, doing my badges for 8 years. So I did my B license. I literally passed my A license last summer. Did it all through the FAW, which is a great course, and obviously get to see some wicked people down there. And then I've been coaching or not playing for the last sort of 2 seasons. I've never officially hung up the boots, but they're staying where they are at the moment. But yeah, this is my first sort of head coach role, and it's a great starting point for me. Fantastic club that I captained and that I played for, and yeah, it's almost like I'm bottom of the rung again now, because I'm this new fresh-faced coach with ideas, but my mind is spinning with things that I love to do and like to do, and it's like I'm starting football all over again, and it's a great feeling. Yeah.
What?
I want to ask.
Yeah. Oh, go on. Sorry, go on.
You played at Forest Green Rovers, obviously, and scored a bag full of goals. Was you around when? Is it Dave Vance was the owner? Was you around then?
So yeah, Dale Vince. So I was there early on before Dale. So that's when we used to wear black and white. And then I went back there on loan from Eastleigh when they were in the conference. And yeah, Dale was in charge then, and the ecotricity and the vegan food after the game and stuff. So listen, for what they've done as a club is fantastic, because they've stuck to their beliefs, they've stuck to their morals, and they've run with it. And what you tend to see at clubs like that is that they'll have a go for a couple of seasons and then it'll change. But they've stuck with it, and I think what they're doing is fantastic. You know, I said my son plays for the under-11s now at Forest Green, so we're all very still involved down at the club. we go down there for meetings, and the vegan food is still getting served. It's actually not bad, to be fair. It's all right. But yeah, it's
your boy plays there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's a cracking club. Listen, I was only there for a season, but they still treat me as if I was there for 10, 12 years. If ever I want to go to a game, I'll get invited in, and everything else. So it's a wicked club. It's in the middle of nowhere, but it's a nice place if you ever get a chance to get down there.
Awesome. What I was going to ask about was obviously your current job with was it Swindon Supermarine Head?
Yeah.
So what tier are they in the football pyramid?
So we're step 3 of non-league. So we're 2 below the conference, basically. So you got the conference is step 1, you've got the conference south and north, step 2, and then we're step 3. So it's a pretty good standard. Lads get paid pretty well for the level. There's some big sides in our league this year. And yeah, I was involved in non-league football playing for like the last 7-8 years of my career, so I understand it. I know what it sort of takes. I know lads have all my players have got full-time jobs, so you have to try and manage that, and going on holiday during the season and things like that, which is a little bit different. But it's something that I'm used to because I've dealt with it for the last 7-8 years. Excuse me, myself as a player. So I think being a player going straight into coaching has helped me a little bit because I think I probably get the respect of people because of what I did in my career. I played close to probably 200 league games, when I did play. And I think I get a little bit of respect from that, apart from the ones who don't know who I am, who are like 18, 19. And they're asking me if I've ever played before, and I'm just going to leave it. Like, it's not worth it. So, like, that's when I know I'm going over the hill when they have to ask me. But yeah, or I'll join in training, and they'll go like, "You're not bad. Like, you could probably play." And I'm like, yeah, I used to a little bit, yeah. But no, it's I absolutely love it. It's a very good standard of football, and the progression. I think as a young coach starting out, I think if you can go to that level or the level above, then it's a great learning curve, and I get to do everything my way. As a non-league manager, I'm in charge of budget, players, recruitment, cameras, everything. Literally, I've got about 3 staff. That's it. So we literally run everything together, and it just helps me with experience because whatever job, I've made I've told my chairman that if a job comes up higher up, then I'd like to apply, and I'd like to try and work myself towards that, and I want to be a league coach or a league manager in the future. That's my aspiration.
You've kind of covered my next few questions, in fairness there. The thing is, we've all seen it, that the standard of National League has gone up massively since I was, and obviously it's going to filter down through the more regional leagues as well, and with those National League players going on loan to these other teams, etc. So it's only good for football at the end of the day, isn't it? With the standard getting better throughout the football pyramid. So, it's quality, mate. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's really important. Of like, when younger players. They almost turn their nose up sometimes if they're a league player, especially of dropping down into non-league and they're only training a couple of times in the week and that, and then they go and see the standard and think, oh, actually, this is it is men's football. I'll be honest, it's a lot better than playing in an under-23 league, for example, because it's physical. It's you go to some dark, dingy places at times, especially in January and February when it's a little bit dim and it's muddy, and you have to grow up quickly. So I'll be looking to get in a few younger lads on loan this year. I've already spoken to Cardiff to see if we can nick a few of them, and Bristol City and the surrounding areas, because one, it helps my budget, and two, I'm helping these lads get experience. And for any young player, I'd always say go out on loan, because you meet different people, you get out of that sort of comfort bubble where you can just test yourself. And listen, it's an intense place in the dressing room, for a young player. And I think if they can overcome that, then it definitely helps when you go back to your parent club, because you know what it means to win. My lads are playing, and if they score, they can have a takeaway on a Saturday night because they got a £25 goal bonus. Do you know what I mean? So it's really important for some. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's an important thing to try and get, like I said, pro clubs invested with us. We've got a great tie with Swindon Town, who are just down the road. So yeah, it's all looking good for the future at the moment.
How are Cardiff in regards to sending players on loan? Have they been open to it, or?
Yeah, luckily I've still got a few contacts, and obviously through the FAW doing my coaching, I still know obviously a lot of people at the club. So yeah, we've made contact, and professional clubs tend to do it as late as possible. So they'll literally get through all the way through pre-season, basically make sure the first team are sorted, and they've got enough players training wise, and then they'll sort of have a list of players who can just, away you go. So yeah, it'll be probably quite last minute for us, but that's absolutely fine, because hopefully we'll be getting them for free. So we'll wait as long as we have to, but it's always good to get somebody into a different environment, and if they can add to my squad in quality, then it makes my life a lot easier as well.
There we go. We got one ready for you. Keanu Tate. Enjoy. Yours.
Yeah. Signed. There we go. That's binding. That is great.
You know that desperate, mate. I'm not joking. That's harsh. That's a bit harsh. That is.
How do you do scouting then at that level? How do you pay someone to scout for you, or do you have to do everything yourself?
So some people will have an in-house scout. Listen, it's all down to budget, really. The bigger teams in our league with a bigger budget, we're probably about mid-table with our budget. It's important that we do our homework basically ourselves. We'll be on YouTube, we'll be on any highlights that we can find for anything, to try and get an upper hand on somebody. But yeah, some teams at our level will have scouts who will go around and watch games and try and get little bits and pieces. Personally, I'm a coach or a manager who likes to focus on my team more than anything, rather than what the team are doing in front of me. But in this league, the managers all talk to each other, and you'll bring up the ones that you sort of like and say, what were they like on Saturday, because we've got them in 2 weeks, or just trying to get a little bit of information. And that's pretty much as far as it goes. But yeah, the higher up you go, obviously the scouting network is massive, and yeah, there's a lot of information that can be had, but it's all down to preference to the manager, really.
Do you know with pre-season as well, is it more difficult the lower down you go?
Yeah, it is difficult, because I'll give you a few examples. So obviously we started back on the 25th of June, because we had a game on the 6th. Now that seems really early, and it was a bit early for my liking, but we had a pre-arranged game against Swindon Town. We always do every year, and it was on the 6th of July. Now we only train twice a week. We train Tuesday and Thursday nights. So I had to get him in 2 weeks previous to that to make sure we had 4 sessions in before we play Swindon Town. And it probably told we were 1-0 up at half time, actually winning the game, and then we lost 4-1. So we don't get enough time non-league to work on stuff, because we've had Saturday, Tuesday games pretty much for the last 3 weeks. We've got 2 more left now, and then our season starts. So it's hard with time constraints. We're lucky enough at Swindon, our facilities, we've got a massive indoor 4G pitch right next to our ground. So we get in there. Obviously, training's never cancelled, anything like that. But yeah, the difficult thing is the time constraints. Players don't get paid until the season starts. So they'll have all signed their deals ready to go, and they're all committed to the club, but they don't get paid until the season starts. So they only get paid for 39 weeks of the year. So they're allowed to go on holiday during pre-season. I've got both of my goalkeepers away this week, so I'm playing an under-18 keeper on Saturday. Little things like that you just have to work around all the time. And players will say, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm not here this weekend." And you're like, "All right, okay, fair enough." Like, it's a difficult one to deal with, but that's the nature of non-league football. They're allowed to do that, and they're not contracted. If they're not there, they don't get paid. If the game gets cancelled, half my team won't get paid because they're on a pay-as-you-play basis. So it works both ways, but I think that's probably the most difficult thing, is you're trying to make it as professional as possible, but also realise that people have got lives, commitments, job commitments outside of football as well.
Awesome. So I've just literally caught sight of the time. Mate, I feel like I could speak to you for several hours. Absolutely brilliant to say. I'm loving it. What I'll do is, because I would say I'm well aware of the time, I'll go to some of the comments and questions in the audience, and then I've got I say quite a few. I've got a few I love to ask.
Yeah, no
Stuart's
worries.
got a few in his locker as well, if that's okay with you, mate. So Reece Davis Evans' mum, Lorna Evans, says, do you think there was more out into grassroots football years ago compared to now?
I think yes, in a straight answer, because I think players who stand out at grassroots level get picked up so much earlier now. You only have to put a highlights clip on YouTube and somebody signed for Man City at the age of 8. And it's just like they've never even had a chance to be a child or play grassroots. And I think back then, especially with the money the way it is now in the financial game, you look at players like Jamie Vardy and Tyrone Mings and Ollie Watkins is a great example recently, all come from non-league. I think people used to look at non-league a lot sooner rather than later and try and pick up a few hidden gems. Whereas now, listen, a lad in my league, he only has to have 3 or 4 good games in our league, and he'll be at a League Two club. Within months. The players very rarely go under the radar now, and that's just again like we just spoke with Reece. The scouting network and no highlights, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it is, it goes out so quick that nobody really is untouched. You never find a hidden gem that no one's ever heard of. So yeah, I think the grassroots was a lot better back then, because now I just feel like all the best players get filtered out of it so quickly.
Yeah, that's a good point, because as I mentioned earlier to you, mate, because I coach the under 10s and I'm a little bit involved with the under 6s of the club as well. I like to keep an eye, because I got a nephew who plays for them, and there's a young boy there, and he's 7 years of age, and he's been offered. Swansea has tried to pick him up a couple of times already, but he's declined it because he just wants to be a kid, basically, at the moment. He loves playing football. He loves doing it. He loves playing for his local village team. But, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to go on.
It's a tough one. You've got to have strong parents as well, I think. I think you've got to have a good environment around you, because, listen, if you're a parent who doesn't understand the football world, and listen, it is a ruthless business. Parents can get caught up with the bright lights and, my lad's here and my lad's there, and it turns into a competition with the school parents and stuff like that. But unless you understand it, it's very difficult to turn these offers down. So yeah, fair play, because like I said, they've got a lot of growing up to do, and football will always be there if you're good enough. That's what I tell my son. If it doesn't happen now, if you're good enough, it will happen eventually. And there's no rush, no rush.
Exactly. No, I got no doubt about it. My young boy, would literally probably walk into my under 10s team, to be honest with you, because he's such a talented little footballer. Probably I won't go there because his brother plays for me as well. But that's a different story. But no, he's such a good footballer, and I have no doubt he's going to do great things. On that note as well, so GD Parry says, do you feel young players now are getting too soon compared to 20 years ago? That's got to be a given, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think financially, yes. But I think it's just the world we live in now, the market we live in, that every player has a price. And if they don't get it somewhere, they're going to get it somewhere else. So I think the clubs have to give them what they desire. Otherwise, they'll lose them. So I think, that part of it is an easy one, is financially, yes. I think that they get not treated too well, but I think they get given too much in terms of babysat. But like I said, the examples I gave earlier of knocking on the first team dressing room before you walked in, even cleaning boots doesn't exist anymore. And that was our Christmas money back in the day. We used to get 100 quid at Christmas, and you'd be absolutely buzzing off it for doing 9 months worth of boot cleaning. But yeah, I think I think they get a little bit too soon now. But again, it all boils down to what the environment's like, what their parents are like, and you do see those players go off the radar though. Eventually, they can have £1 million in the bank, but they've never played a game of professional football. So it's when you weigh it up, it's what would you prefer? Would you prefer to be rich, or would you prefer to have a legacy? So I think so. I think, but the clubs have to try and keep up with the Joneses, and they have to offer him what other people would offer him if they really want to keep him that badly.
That just triggered a question for me. Sorry, who's the best tipper, or who's the tightest tipper you had when you was a boot cleaner?
To be fair, I was always tipped quite well. So I always remember Peter Thorne was I was his boot boy, and he gave me £101 because he wanted to be the highest payer. Yeah, so he wanted to be the highest payer, so he gave me £101. But then we used to have some of the players would do. They do the 3 envelopes with like 40, 60 or 80 in, and you had to pick an envelope. A few players, a few of the players used to want to have a little Christmas carol sung to them in the dressing room to make sure you got your money. So
you got a name drop. You allowed to name drop any?
Mainly Bowen. Bowen was the wind up, I think, for most of it. We had the characters like you said, the characters back then. You got Graham Kavanagh, you got Willie Boland, Des Hamilton, Gabardon, like I said, Earnshaw, absolute firecracker. Like it was a wicked atmosphere, and you used to have to do some crazy stuff for your tip. And obviously my first year was under Sam Haman as well, so that was that was lively as well. Yeah,
that's quality. Excuse me, sorry, I saw a chance with the question. I couldn't resist it then.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Well, to be fair, I'll just add to that is Sam Haman once he used to call all the apprentices baby. So he'd say, "Hey baby," like, and he'd come and touch your face and whatever. And he bet me 50 quid that he could beat me in a race on Ninian Park. And I said, oh, like, okay, Sam, yeah, no problem. And he was like, yeah, come on then. And he was in a suit. And yeah, obviously I beat him. But yeah, and he paid up as well. So I made 50 quid that week.
Did he actually run as well?
Yeah. I chased it. Yeah, we had a sprint. Yeah, full length on the pitch. Yeah.
That's outstanding, mate. That's absolutely brilliant.
I was a little bit unsure whether it was a test or not. I'm thinking, do I beat him or not? And I thought, well, if I don't beat him, he could end up saying, hang on, this guy can't even beat me, so he better go. Like so. But yeah, that was an easy 50 quid, that one. Yeah.
Did you expect a sheep head to come flowing at you or something like that?
Yeah, we heard all the stories about it. Yeah, it was it was a good time. One of our youth team players, he made him let down Leo Fortune West tyres in a car park. And it's ridiculous, isn't it? You couldn't have picked a worse person to do it to be honest. But yeah, he was like that. He looked after all the young lads. To be fair, yeah, he was good.
That's quality. That brings me on nicely now to my next question in the chat. Paul says, best player you played with, and who was the worst, Fleet?
Oh, can't give me the worst. Hang on, let me think. Right now, best player. I say this on everything I ever go on. Jason Kumas is the standout player. Literally, he was just on a different planet to everyone else. Now, listen, he liked to drink and he liked to beer now and again, but I've never seen a player with the ability he had to just sort of ghost around players. And to be fair, he had what a career he had, but he probably underachieved. He was on a different planet to everybody else. I played with John Joe Shelby as well at Charlton, and they're on very similar sort of levels. Very similar levels. But yeah, Kumas came on loan from West Brom and just literally ripped the place apart. He was incredible. He's a great bloke as well. Yeah, absolutely top man as well.
Quality. So I'll change it then slightly as second point then. We'll go with who was a player that you played with that should have gone on to have better things?
To be fair, there's loads of them, to be fair, who should have gone on to better stuff. But like I said, it all comes down to different things. I think when I first come in at Cardiff, and I only ever played with Leo Fortune West in like a reserve side or whatever, because I think he left after my first year. But, everybody he was effective at what he did. If you asked him to trap a ball, he couldn't do it. you know, but you ask him to go and head 50 balls a game, he'll do it. So it's all relative, isn't it? If you're looking, you know, you see the stick that Haaland gets because he's not very good with his link up. Who cares when you score 50 goals a season? So it's all relative. You know, players who look good on the eye tend to, you know, not go hit the heights that they maybe should. And then you've got players who play in a side because they're effective. And Leo Fortune West probably comes into that. I played with Andre Gray at Luton. And you know, Andre will happily agree with me that when he first came in, I wondered if he had ever been taught to kick a football properly. You know, but gone on to do great things because he was quick, he was strong, he was agile, and his technique came afterwards. You know, he was a late developer, for example. So I don't think there's ever a player that you end up playing with and say, flipping heck, how are you a professional footballer? Because they've got something that they're good at.
Yeah.
You know, it may be something really minute, like they're really good, like Rory Delap, fantastic footballer, only ever remembered for a long throw-in. So it's all relative. You know, I don't think any. I think I saw the stats of, I think it's one in 14 million people or kids actually like make 10 professional appearances in football. And when you like put it in that sort of context, no professional footballer is a poor player. Let's be honest, you know. So
quality. I've got, so there's no more questions in the chat. I've got 2 questions I'd like to ask you, and then I'll leave it to Reset if he's got any. Sorry, Reset, I know I've spoken more than you, so I do apologise. I've been well excited. So, obviously, as a centre forward, who is the best strike partner you've had during your career? And also, I want to ask you who's the worst strike partner. Don't worry. I said, and also, if you could play up front, if you could have a strike partner, past and present, who would it have been?
I think in my sort of league career, I was very quick. I used to play on the shoulder. My link up was non-existent. I never used to show for the ball. I never used to head it. I literally used to run in behind 50, 60 times a game. I was probably offside 20 times, but I knew that one time I'd get in, and that was my game. So I'll answer the second one first. I would have preferred to have played with a bigger striker to sort of take the wax for me and to flick the ball on. You do the dirty work, and I'll get all the glory. So you're looking at, like, if we're talking sort of, you know, when I used to play with like people like Gavin Gordon and stuff for the reserves, great foil for me. You know, I was lightweight, skinny, could run fast, and he just used to bully people for me. So if you turn that in terms of like an elite player, you're probably looking at someone like an Emil Heskey, someone who's gonna just dominate aerially, beat people up, and then I can just do the nice bit of
all
putting
the
it in the net.
work for you, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, they're the underrated one, and I'll get all the glory. Yeah, that would be ideal for me. I think best strike. Listen, there's been a few. So I think me and Andre Gray at Luton had a fantastic link up. We were very much on the same wavelength. We got on great off the pitch. And we had a terrific sort of season at Luton where we both banged in goals and did really well. So I probably enjoyed most of the time playing with Andre. Nice kid as well, you know, and like I said, a fantastic career. I was lucky enough to play sort of at Charlton when I was in the reserves and stuff, with Todorov, who was at Portsmouth, if you remember him, the Bulgarian striker.
Yeah.
And listen, he's like the lower league version of Berbatov. It was just so you'd make a run and he'd see you before you've even made the run, little things like that, and you've just the technique and everything about him. He was so casual and didn't ever run around. That was my job, so I had to do the dirty stuff, and he just just thread passes and just pin stuff and link it, and he was great. Adding to that, the best striker I've seen or the best I've played against was when it was actually at City. We played West Brom in a cup game, and Carnu played. The original, and he was coming to the end of his career then, but mate, he was miles ahead. Like he looks like he shouldn't be able to move properly. He's got size 14 feet, and the ball just didn't leave his foot. It was scary to watch, and I think he scored as well. He chopped the keeper and scored, and yeah, he was just on a different planet. So I can't even imagine what he was like in his heyday.
That's quality. Reese, anything from you, mate?
I just won. When I was about 13, we signed a striker, and at the time, there was a lot of hype around him. It was Andrea Ferretti. I think he was there when he was. What was he like? Because
he
was doing the next big thing.
The laugh says it all.
I'll be honest, he was a big thing as well. Jesus Christ, he was I think Dave Jones signed him. So Dave Jones didn't like me. Basically from the start, I was a bit arrogant, like I said before, a bit cocky, and I just wasn't his sort of character. I don't think.
Is that why you went Andy Campbell gone so well?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Me and Cams were like the reserve starting lineup, I think. Yeah. But no. Ferretti came in and he didn't speak much English at all, and he great ability, fantastic ability. Like, just loved eating. Like, literally, I think one of his first English words, and this is no lie, was cheeseburger, and that's all he learned. And he used to say it all the time, and he'd just be like, and then we just used to start saying it back to him. But he was miles overweight. I think he made like one or two like half appearances, didn't he? And then never to be seen again. But there was loads of players like that when we were there at City. Like, obviously we had like Inamoto came in on loan from West Brom, or no, from Arsenal or West Brom, and then we had Fanzi Hai, like the Chinese record cap holder. Like, listen, it's bonkers. Some of the stuff, we should have 2 hours on this because it's absolutely bonkers. But yeah, like players like that, and you just think, oh my, where are they now? Like, what are they doing now? But yeah, Ferretti was one that I wouldn't have even remembered unless you'd have brought it up. But yeah, he was. We used to take him out on a few nights out and stuff, and yeah, he was good fun.
Was he like a chosen boy by Fergie? Was he like recommended by Fergie or something to Cardiff?
That's the one.
To be honest, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a rumor as well, because yeah, you hear all this stuff. Look at the Ali Dia situation at Southampton. Yeah, I'm George Weah's cousin. And it's littered full of them. And but yeah, he came in, played a few reserve games, and didn't really do a lot else. Bless him. But the football world is littered full of them, I think.
That's amazing. Obviously, we touched upon a bit now, but hopefully we can have you back on again, mate, because I feel like there's still so many things that we haven't spoken about. If you're okay with it, I'm putting on the spot, but I don't care.
We'll have an X-rated one after the water.
Yeah, 100%, mate. No, it's been class, mate. Literally, do you know what? Like, as I think Reece has mentioned, we've had a few guests on our show on the Flower Hour over the last few months, with Andy and Willie Bowler a couple of weeks ago, etc. And
brilliant!
You know, this is one of the most ones I've been looking forward to the most, because I was really keen to like learn about yourself and your story and stuff like that. And it's been class. I've absolutely loved it, mate. Top bloke, absolute top bloke. So I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming on with us. And do you know what? We'll have to have a bit of a Flower Hour road record, mate, and come and give you a watch next season. It's not too far away.
Yeah. Anyway. Let me know anytime. I'll sort you out a couple of tickets. Yeah, down the Webbswood Stadium. It's all good, mate. Yeah, lovely. Have a beer by the side of the pitch, everything.
Yeah, man, that sounds perfect to me. You're right up my street. You're talking my language already now, aren't you?
Good man.
Nah, I'll be class. We'll have to arrange that, mate. No, I appreciate it massively. Thank you so much. Obviously, massive thank you to everyone who's in the comments, the questions, and things like that. Again, thank you, Reece, mate, for arranging this. It's been absolutely belted, so thank you for that. Obviously, big shout out to AJM for your sponsorship. Obviously, the banner's been going along throughout the show. Give them a shout. No job is too small and all the rest of it. You can order online and do deliveries, etc., and things like that. And obviously, coming up, big week for Ace Podcast Nation and Classic World for Si. With a live event for Craig Bellamy on Friday evening, which will be class. Obviously, sold out within 2 days, I think. Myself and my regular co-host, Mr. Angel, will be back on Saturday. We do have another guest actually lined up. I won't give out details just yet, just in case he cancels on me, but here we go. But I think that covers it. Without further ado, is there one thing left to say, Fleet?
Up the flowers.
Up the flowers, yeah!